Thank you, Sir Ignacio. So once again, I'm Aaron Xavier M. Pastorio from BPN 2A. So now I will continue the discussion in vocal and instrumental music during the Renaissance period. So first, let's talk about the Renaissance background. So the Renaissance music is a traditional understood to over from period 1400 to 1600. The Renaissance is a French word which means rebirth. It is a period of exploration, learning, and achievement. So during the Renaissance, the authority and influence of church became less powerful, and the secular music was began to rise. So in the Renaissance period, the vocal music is important than the instrumental music. So now, let's move on to the three important song form of Renaissance period, which include the madrigal, motet, and mass. So first, let's talk about the madrigal. The madrigal is a secular polyphonic work of a small group of an accompanied singer. It is the most artistic genre of secular vocal music. So the madrigal is a polyphonic work, which means it has many musical lines or equal importance. The madrigal were sung with a lot of imitation, and also the madrigal were performed in a group of 4, 5, or 6. And they sang secular music, which is the non-religious music. So here's the example of madrigal, which entitled "The Fire, Fire My Heart" by Julie Gold.
Fire, 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 my heart, my heart, my heart, my heart, la 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 la, fa la 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 la, la 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 la, fa la 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 la.
So next, let's proceed to the motet. So the motet is a polyphonic choral in Latin text. It can be used in any service of church and usually in a cappella. So the motet is a polyphonic work with 4 or 5 voice parts singing one religious text. So they have a similar to madrigal but with an important difference. The motet are religious work while the madrigal are usually love song. So here's the example of motet which entitled Ave Maria Gracia Plena by George Juan Des Perez. So next, let's proceed to the Mass. So the Mass is the Renaissance form of composition wherein the imitation is an important feature. So a musical Mass is like a motet. It also follows the religious service of the Catholic. It is performed in Latin. So here's the example of Mass, which is the Kyrie. So we're done in vocal music of Renaissance. So now we're going to move the instrumental music of Renaissance. So the instrumental music of Renaissance was closely associated with vocal music. During the late Middle Age and early Renaissance, the instrument play along with the vocal part of a song, playing literally the same notes. So the instrument was not seen as a key component, but more as a friendly guide. So the singer didn't sing too much off key. So during that period, the common instrumental genre were the toccata, prelude, ricercar, and canzona. So here's the example of instrumental music of Renaissance, which is the toccata. So next, let's proceed to the musical instrument in Renaissance. So there are 21 musical instruments in Renaissance. The first one is the viol or the viola da gamba. It is a family of bowstring instrument that originated in 15th century Spain. It is looked like a violin family that they have a 5 or 6 string, and they are also played differently, being held upright and played between the legs of like a cello, rather than under the chin like a violin or the viola. So next is the swam. So the swam is a type of double reed instrument that was popular in Renaissance era. It is constructed out of wood. They have a piercing, trumpet-like sound that made them perfect for use in dancing as well as in a military context. So next instrument is the hurdy-gurdy. The hurdy-gurdy features a hand crank turned wheel that produces a sound when it touches the string. So meanwhile, a keyboard is pressed to alter the pitch and play different notes. So these instruments are sometimes used in folk music. So next is the sackbut. The sackbut is a type of trombone which was commonly used during the Renaissance. It characterized by the telescopic slide that is used to vary the length of the tube to change pitch. So the next instrument is the harpsichord. A harpsichord is a musical instrument played by means of a keyboard. This activates a row of levers that turn a trickle mechanism that plunk one or more string with a small plectre made from quill or plastic. So next is the bagpipes. The bagpipes are woodwind instruments using enclosed reed feed from constant reservoir of air in the form of a bag. The bagpipes are now commonly associated with Scotland but have been played in various places around the world for centuries. But in the Renaissance period, they accompany dances, marches, and outdoor occasions for people of all classes. So the next instrument is the crumhorn. The crumhorn is a musical instrument of the wind family. It is most commonly used during the Renaissance period. The crumhorn is a bit like a chanter section of the bagpipes but without the bag. So next is the recorder. So the recorder remains popular as starter instrument for young children. It is a modern instrument that are often made of plastic, but in the Renaissance era, they would have been made of wood. So next is the lira de braccio. The lira de braccio looked rather like a violin but had a wider bridge, a flatter fingerboard, and generally had 7 strings. The lira de braccio was a European bowstring instrument of the Renaissance. It was used by Italian poet-musicians in court in the 15th and 16th century to accompany their improvised recitation of lyrics and narrative poetry. So the next instrument is the Renaissance harp. The Renaissance harp appeared in a various sizes but essentially resembled in a modern-day equivalent. So when the string vibrated against this pin, it caused a buzzing sound. So the next instrument is the dulcian. The dulcian is a large double reed instrument made from maple. It would have play instrumental chamber ensemble as well as providing accompaniment for dancing and choral groups. So next is the trumpet. The trumpet is a brass instrument commonly used in classical and jazz ensemble. They are played by blowing air through nearly closed lip, and it producing a buzzing sound that starts a standing wave vibration in the air column inside the instrument. So next is the serpent. The serpent is a large bass-registered instrument with a curved snaking shape. It is made of leather-covered wood and has finger hole like a woodwind instrument, but it is played with a cup-style mouthpiece and its distant ancestor of tuba. So next is the Jew's harp. The Jew's harp is made of metal and it's held against the performer's mouth to make a sound. So the next instrument is the Renaissance violin. The Renaissance violin has a shorter, stumbler neck and a few other differences from the modern instrument, but it is clearly recognizable in appearance and sound. So next is the lute. The lute was the most important instrument for secular music during the Renaissance period. As a solo instrument, the finger trip plunking techniques enabled it to realize that complex polyphonic style that was popular at that time. So next is the transverse flute. So it is similar to the modern flute, but at the stage of Renaissance, it would have made of wood rather than metal. So next is the cornet. So the cornet is a type of modern trumpet. The cornet is made of wood and played rather like a recorder with finger holes. So the next instrument is the pipe organ. The pipe organ, in which pressurized air is driven through pipes of various sizes to produce musical tones. It is used as a part of church service. So next is the Naker drum. The Naker drum was used in military and ceremonial contexts and in the ensemble featuring louder instruments like swam, trumpets, and the sackbut. So the last instrument is the tambourine. The tambourine is a brain drum with metal around the outside. It would have been played by wandering minstrel during the Renaissance period. So that's all for the vocal and instrumental music of Renaissance. So for the continuation of our discussion, Sir Ian discussed the notable composer during the Renaissance period.